That's actually what everyone wants. Everyone thinks they want the 6-pack abs. Everyone thinks they want the $1 million in their bank account. Everyone thinks they want the perfect relationship. But what they really want is the motion they think they're gonna get. There was a quote from Wayne Dyer or Ed Millett or Ed Dyer. I don't know. It's like a combination of both of them now. Happiness is not a destination. Happiness is a frequency. And that's what affirmations will do.
Most of the time, the reason affirmations doesn't work for people is because they're hollow words. Like if you can't hold yourself to a certain standard to be disciplined, to go to the gym, to go to work on time, to show up to a place 5 minutes early, your words are hollow. Your being is on a certain vibration. And if your words don't match the vibration that your being is on, they're hollow. There's nothing.
You have all these good thoughts, and then you have poop thoughts.
Yeah, 100%.
So when you're
Trash.
actually meditating, it's like the act of taking a number 2 with your brain. It clears your thoughts out. There's some really
100%.
good thoughts there, but there's a lot of crappy thoughts there that need to be
100%.
purged.
So what was your first experience with meditation?
It was the hardest thing in the world.
100%. So paint me a picture. I don't know what that looks like for you.
Oh,
You've done 1,000
yeah.
MRFs in 1,000 days. Like,
Yeah.
what does hardest thing in the world look like to you?
The first time I meditated, he just told me to just put a clock on for 1 minute, and I closed my eyes, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, I'm gonna go text this mofo. Be like, bro, that was torture. Right? But then you made you realize, like, you can't even sit 1 minute alone. How tortured is your mind not being able to sit there? I had 2 revelations. 1, I couldn't stand myself. And 2, why couldn't I stand myself? I gotta unpack this. So our next session, I was like, this is what happened. And we just started to unravel so many things. This is what the biggest learning thing that I got from meditation. If you master the first hour of the day, you can potentially master the rest of your life. In today's episode, I got Coach Nick here with me the 17th billionth time, right? So we have been doing a bunch of stress to weigh less series, and this one is going to be on this playlist as well. But what we want to cover today is really building a morning routine, really sustainable to reducing stress. But ultimately, if you're trying to get to the best shape of your life, this potential morning routine that you create and we're going to co-create together will get you to that level. Welcome back, Nick.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me.
You thought I was going to throw another nickname. I wasn't prepared.
I wasn't sure.
I wasn't prepared. I
like
forgot
that
that
shirt.
part of it. Thanks, man. Okay, so first off, I want to put some context around this because I didn't understand my morning routine to be such a pivotal part of my health. Like, I wasn't 300 plus pounds. I was like, you remember Jim? Jim was like, why don't you help people that are like 300 plus pounds and more? And I was like, dude, I've never been there. And he was like, that's not necessarily true. And one of the quotes that he said was, every time you say yes to something, you say 10,000 no's to a lot of things. So that goes for both like good habits and bad habits. And we started to unpack my morning routine and what that looked like and how that potentially can create this ripple effect of doing good things throughout the day. So I'm unpacking mine. We don't even know what the scripts are. We got a little bit of the bulletproof notes, right? So guys, this is like our third scriptless one, but for some reason you guys are really liking it. This is what our conversations are like anyways. So, and I just feel more relaxed. I don't have to prepare that much. Like, this is coming from the zone, from the top of the head.
Flow state.
You ready to do this?
I'm ready, bro. Lay it on
Okay.
me.
So let's start. The acronym is ARMOR. So if you guys grab a piece of paper, these are the 5 things we're going to go over. Affirmations, reading, I almost forgot how to spell, meditation, oxidative stress, and reflection. Okay, so before we dive into each of those pieces, I want to start out with, why do you think people don't even have morning routines?
That's a wonderful question. I would say it's probably twofold. Either A, they haven't had anybody in their life to model a routine, so therefore that they could follow. And the second piece of that is, if they had somebody to model a routine, they'd never talked about the benefits.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because as I've progressed in my years on this planet, I've had more conversations with my dad about a morning routine. And my dad, I want to say for at least 25 plus years of my life has always woken up early. He's always done yoga. He's always meditated.
Yeah.
And those are like his non-negotiables. And I didn't get it when I was younger. It was one of those things like, oh, okay, you're going to wake up at 5 and do that? Cool. I'm just going to get like 3 more hours of sleep, and then I'm going to roll right into whatever we're about to do.
Yeah.
And so I had someone to model it for me, but we never talked about the benefits as to why he does it. So that's the twofold answer. It's either A, they haven't had somebody that would model it for them, or B, they've had somebody model it for them, but they haven't had a conversation around it.
Yeah. It's really hard to see it too. Like, one of my things that I still battle till this day, it was like, I need to get more sleep. I was like, I'm just going to get an extra hour of sleep, an extra 2 hours of sleep. But I already got 7. But one of the difficulties is it's really hard to wake up, right? And the other side, and here's what I noticed, you're waking up to something you don't want to do. So I think it's very, very important to design. I read the book, Savers, and he said something about Christmas morning. And the really cool thing about a Christmas morning is, you remember when Christmas is up, like we're up till like 12 or 1 or 3. Some kids don't even sleep. But as soon as parents wake up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning, you're bright-eyed and bushy-eyed.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Because you're excited. So part of why I think people they're not waking up early is because the first thing that they probably have to do is either something they don't want to do, right? Or they got to go right into work, like 100%. Solving problems again.
100%.
That's like that, at least for me. I'm not sure if that's like for you, but I continue to have to shift it. I'm like, I got to put more things that I want to do up front. Otherwise, I'm not going to want to wake up.
100%. And work can be like what you do for a 9 to 5, or work can be being a parent.
Yeah.
Because Royce, the dad, is different than Royce, the human.
Yeah.
Right? And Royce, the human, is a little bit different than Royce, the husband.
Right.
Right? So if you have to wake up and all of a sudden Lucas needs you and then Tara needs you, and then you're like, but what about Royce? Where do I get my Royce time? Right?
You know what's really hard? This cat wakes up at 5 a.m. too. So I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I going to wake up at 3?
He's your son, kid.
Yeah,
What'd you expect?
Like, I'm meditating and he goes, bloop. I'm like, what is happening right now? And I was like, he's just like, he turns his little video game on.
Think about it though, bro. That's been his life.
He just sees me wake up.
Think about that. That's and his Christmas morning is knowing that my dad's already up.
Yeah.
Right. So I just got to wake up and I can go be with dad. Yeah. And you're like, man, come on now. I'm trying to get my routine in. I'm trying to center myself for the day. And he's like, nah, dad time.
100%. And then on Sundays, it's 6 a.m. and I'm still in there. I'm like, I'm just going to get an extra hours of sleep. He's like, Dad, it's sunlight. You got to wake up. And I'm like, what is this?
He's like, you lazy POS. What you doing still in bed?
Because I'm catching up Z's because I'm waking up earlier and earlier to get my first hour to myself, which is rare.
100%.
You know, so I don't think people talk about that sometimes. Sometimes, I mean, you want to wake up 1 hour before your kid, but what if your kid is a morning person now? Right? It's like a nightmare.
About to create a monster.
Yeah. He doesn't sleep till like 9. So it's like he's just always awake. So
I think that is a huge point though, especially for when you're talking parents.
Yeah.
To create a morning routine for themselves or to create any sort of routine for themselves, right? Parents usually on the look at, oh, okay, cool. What are my priorities? My kid, my relationship with my spouse, and then work, right? Usually kind of in that order.
100%, yeah.
And when that happens, where do they try to find their me time? They're like, oh, okay, cool. I'll just wake up and do all these things and I'll get my me time on the back half.
Yes.
Right. And a lot of time people will default to their me time being sleeping. I was like, that is passive. You have to do that. Right.
Yeah.
Like you have to sleep. You can't actively be sleeping. That don't work.
That's
right.
True.
So if you put it on the back half and it's a passive thing, not an active thing, you're not really getting energy from it.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if you prioritize your sleep schedule, right, if you prioritize your REM cycles, and I'm excited to see the podcast that you're shooting after this with the sleep expert, because I have lived my life, you know, when
Yeah.
I was working at Nacho Daddy, working the graveyard shifts. I that is when I first started to
Uh,
explore and play with 90-minute sleep cycles, right? You can
yeah.
sleep on a cycle of 90 minutes, 93, 4.5, 6, 7.5, 9. If
Mhm.
you can fall asleep and wake up on one of those time frames, you can wake up bright-eyed and
Yeah.
bushy-tailed, no matter what it is. You can stay up super late. I've stayed up till like 1 a.m. in the morning,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna get 3 hours. I'll wake up at 4.
Yeah.
Woke up at 4, like, let's go. I'm ready to go. And of course, like,
Yeah.
I'm running off of 3 hours of sleep. So in the middle of the afternoon, my body's like, yo, shut it down.
Yeah.
We need a nap,
You're
right?
one of those anomalies. So, guys, if you're listening to Nick right now, he's one of the anomalies that was like one of the fitter graveyard people I met.
Yo, for
There
real.
was a stint we were doing morning
Yep.
team meetings
Yep.
on
6
Saturdays,
a.m.
and then Nick is there at like 4, and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" It's
Bro,
like,
it's
"Bro, I
because
just got out of work."
I would get off work and I
Yeah,
had nothing to do. So I'd be like, you know what? If I go home, I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna miss it.
and I'm just like blown away. I was like, "This guy's still awake. He's a vampire."
I was just
So
happy you had a basketball hoop because it gave me
I know
something
that
to
was
do.
nice. No, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the first letter here, affirmations. And
What does that look like for you?
well, first off, I thought it was foofy. When someone
Mhm.
was like, just say like you're happy, you're attracting abundance, you're gonna attract wealth, like you're super fit, like saying these things, I felt really, really guilty around it because I didn't necessarily believe it.
Mhm.
And now, and you know, when I first started doing the personal development, hired that first life coach,
Mhm.
we did it differently.
Mhm.
We did it in a way where if this we chased more of the emotion. And what I
Mhm.
mean by that, like when I would say the word, I would feel an emotion.
Mhm.
And we'll link a podcast on why emotions are really well. That's the one that you and I just did,
Mhm.
right? Every sentence creates an emotion. So
Mhm.
I actually say affirmations here.
Mhm.
I do 3 affirmations that I say here just so I can get excited about this.
Mhm.
I can get pumped out about this, but I can also feel pressure or less pressure around this.
Mhm.
You want me to share real quick? The
Yeah,
3
I'm listening. I'm
affirmations.
listening.
The first one is hide the garlic.
Mm.
Remember that story? We were like, hey, the kid that wanted the dog, but the grandma was like or the dad didn't want the kid to have a dog
Mhm.
because the dog's gonna get fleas and worms and then
Mhm.
it's gonna die and then the kid's gonna be sad.
Mhm.
But grandma was like, hey, yeah, you can have a dog. And he's like, but dad's gonna know. He's like, dad doesn't have to know. So
Mhm.
he gets the secret dog. And then what ends up happening is the dog starts to get worms.
Mm.
So he's like, oh crap, I gotta go talk to grandma.
Mhm.
And grandma comes by and he's like, just feed it garlic.
Mhm.
And he was like, really? And he tried to feed the dog garlic, but if you ever try to feed dog garlic, what happens?
I've never done it.
You're
I
not
would
going to eat it.
imagine. I would imagine they wouldn't eat it. Yeah.
They won't eat it. And he's like, but grandma, the dog won't eat it. And then the grandma was like, Iho, you got to wrap it with ham.
Mhm.
So he would wrap it with ham and then boom, the dog would eat it. And all of a sudden the worms start to come out.
Mhm.
So one of the messages, what that invokes around me is like, I want to make sure I convey a message that yes, we're talking about weight loss,
Mhm.
right? That is actually the ham.
Mhm.
The garlic is about life.
Mm.
The garlic is about stress,
Mhm.
right? If you manage this stuff, then you'll get what we're actually looking for, right?
Mhm.
Because what's gonna
Optimal human experience.
what's gonna get the clicks, guys, is the weight loss. What's gonna
Mhm.
get the clicks is the body fat loss, the 6-pack
Mhm.
abs. But underneath that message is something way deeper,
Mhm.
and that's why I like bringing you on because we talk about the garlic.
Mhm.
Some of you guys might be like, I hate garlic stuff. It's
Mhm.
not for you. That's okay. But that's one of the messages that I like to kind of like put out, right?
Mhm.
The second one was, and you might relate to this, is there's more than 15 people.
Mm.
So what I mean by that, 15 people is what we can coach in our classes,
Mhm.
right? Maybe 12 now.
Mhm.
But in the past, we were able to put like 15.
Bro, we got 17 in the class before and 20.
Yeah,
You fine. We made
that's
it
what
work.
I'm saying. But so if the views surpass 15 for me,
Mhm.
I'm excited.
Mhm.
Because in the past I would spend 1 hour long and I'd get 10 athletes, 12 athletes.
Mhm.
now we spend an hour together, bro. Like, it's like there's thousands of people being able to get a little bit of the energy that we want to give back to the world, right? So I get excited around that. So I was like, okay, so the first one was hide the garlic. The second one was, shoot, there was more than 15 people, right? And then the other one, I know it sounds weird. Like, they're like, how am I going to get those feelings? I get those feelings. I create my own affirmations to create those feelings. The other one was, do you accept my Blockbuster card? And
okay. Unpack that for me.
yeah, like, what is a Blockbuster card? So if you guys don't know what happened to Blockbuster, it went out of business. But there's this gentleman. He had a MasterCard, but taped on top of it, or American Express card, taped on top of it said Blockbuster. And then he came by and he was like, hey man, do you take Blockbuster card? I was like, I've never took a Blockbuster card. I don't think it works. He was like, nah, just kidding. It's just American Express. And I was like, that's genius. I was like, one, I want to borrow one. I want to buy one, right? It's in Amazon. I'm sure you can probably find it, put it on your credit card. But what Blockbuster did that reminds me of what I need to do in this podcast is, because Netflix tried to sell it to Blockbuster. And Blockbuster was like, they laughed. And they were like, no, dude, there's no way. And then they go bankrupt. Netflix is this massive empire, quadruple the amount of what they were trying to sell it for. Probably way more than that, right? And Blockbuster wasn't open to people's ideas. So when I get into these conversations, I want to be all in. Whatever they say, I'm going to be like, oh yeah. Yeah, right? So it's like, those are the three things I say, and I get into this state. And if you guys are like, man, it looks like he's really open to their ideas, and he's excited to be there. He's saying a message that I'm like, that applies to my life. It's because I say these affirmations out loud, and it evokes some of those feelings: excited, blessed, gratitude, right? So when I create affirmations, I write words down, but it has to pull something from me.
And has to invoke an emotion.
Yeah, and I'm guilty. I'm not perfect. I didn't start out that way. I said I'm a successful business owner. I did all of those things at the start. However, it never really like got me to that level. Right? It didn't get me to that frequency. And that's what I was trying to tap into.
Got you to the frequency, but your vibration couldn't follow because it wasn't there.
Wasn't there.
It didn't believe what you were saying.
Yeah.
Cognitive dissonance.
That's it. Yeah. And it was, and running through guilt is not the same, or shame. Like, that's what I was running on. I was like, I think I'm doing this wrong. Right? So my affirmations is not going to be the same as your affirmations, and vice versa, right? So at the end of the day, whatever you're saying to yourself in the mirror or the words on your whiteboard, right? If it's just someone's regurgitated things with no meaning, I think it's less powerful. Like, it can work. It's probably better than watching TikTok all day, but you can make this way more powerful.
So first things first, I want to go back to your number one, because it's garlic wrapped in ham. Yeah. And it's fitness, right? Fitness is the ham. Life is the garlic. That is, I think that's such a beautiful metaphor, because you can reach your fitness goals and still be unhappy in your life, right? 100%. Like, lost 100 pounds, happy about losing 100 pounds, didn't know myself, didn't feel fulfilled. Constantly seeking something else, right? Yes. Had the abs. Okay, cool. Now what? Right? And then it changed into, okay, cool. Is fitness really the goal, or is fitness the caveat? Is fitness teaching you about yourself so then you can be more optimal in your life, right? So I love the analogy of fitness is the ham and life is the garlic. That's absolutely wonderful.
And everyone comes to us and they're like, how do I get a six pack? And then, in our head, it was like, there's something deeper here. Like, what do you think that's going to bring you? So
what are you looking for?
So
I love that you start out with affirmations. I would say mine differs a little bit. My affirmations come a little bit later. But I always start out with gratitude.
Perfect.
Yeah. Like when when my morning routine, I'll wake up, I'll meditate, I'll do my cold shower, We're going to talk about meditation here shortly. And then as I'm leaving my place and going to my car, it's maybe like 30 steps.
Yeah.
But from my door to my car, I find all the things that I'm grateful for. Thank you for waking me up this morning. Thank you for my calves not being as sore as they were yesterday from freaking
I thought you were
Chad.
gonna say thank you for my calves being bigger than Royce's. That's what you.
That's not what I said, but that's definitely what you heard. That's definitely what you heard.
Okay, fine.
Right? And then just finding gratitude in the mundane. Thank you for the cold air. Thank you for how cold my water was in my cold shower. Thank you for the moment of stillness that I was able to find to start my day off.
Yeah.
Thank you for the wonderful conversation I had with my mom, my dad, my brother, my grandma yesterday. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity to be alive. Mm-hmm. A lot of people really don't understand that someone didn't wake up this morning.
For sure.
We take it for granted, but someone didn't wake up this morning. So I love the affirmations, and mine come, we'll say, a little later in my process.
Yeah.
I just always like to start with gratitude, but it's kind of
similar.
I was about to say, it's on the same frequency.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up.
I like how you bid that, because under gratitude, how does Nick show up? Right. One of them was I get the gratitude by saying, "Hey, there's more than 15 people watching
100%.
This." I immediately feel gratitude, like
100%.
way more gratitude. So it just sets your emotional state.
100%.
When you're doing an affirmation correctly, you're just elevating your emotional state. You could be really tired and you just get jacked up.
100%.
Right? Like, it's intentional. If you want to go to the gym 2 or 3 times or do 100 burpees, if you ain't feeling excited to do it, it's really hard to do.
100%.
Right? There's a reason why we're always working out. It's because we're intentional on our vibrational frequency at the start of the morning. And one of those is affirmations.
100%.
And dude, I thought it was like the foofiest thing, but you're already saying affirmations. I hate to say it to you, right? Like, you're either saying good ones or bad ones.
100%. That's what I was going to say is most of the time the reason affirmations doesn't work for people is because they're hollow words. Like if you can't hold yourself to a certain standard to be disciplined, to go to the gym, to go to work on time, to show up to a place 5 minutes early, your words are hollow. Your being is on a certain vibration. And if your words don't match the vibration that your being is on, they're hollow. There's nothing behind them.
Yeah.
You can say them. You can say them till you're blue in the face, but your body won't follow. Because at the end of the day, your body's smarter than your brain. It's been here longer.
100%. Okay, so if someone wanted to create affirmations, where do you think they should start?
I would say that's a great question. I would say with you setting an affirmation, what is the feeling that you're looking to feel, right?
True.
So with my affirmations, there's this whole 3, 6, 9 affirmation chain.
Okay.
And it's 3 in the morning, or it's 3 in the morning, 6 in the afternoon, 9 in the evening. I've been doing this for the past 2 months. I never get to the 9 in the evening. I'm like,
you're already jacked up.
I'm like 50%. I've done it for the past 2 months, but 9 in the evening, for whatever reason, is eluding me. I'll learn that lesson here shortly and I'll get back to you.
So you're saying like you're going to say 9 affirmations. So like 9 sentences.
So I'll write it down, right? So it actually comes on the back end of my journaling.
Okay.
Right? We'll get to that.
That's
But so it's 3. So my affirmations right now that I'm trying to get through the 9 phase of, and as soon as I get through the 9 phase, I'll switch it off. But it's money comes to me easily, frequently, and abundantly. So I write that 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon. And when I get to the proverbial evening time, I'll write it 9 times.
You write the same exact one.
Same exact thing. Right?
Wow.
And my second one that I write, I only have 2. My second one that I write is I'm a scratch golfer. Right? Because I have this big, this big Mount Everest of a dream to play professional golf on the highest level, right? And so when I started out with my affirmations, especially in relation to golf, I wrote the outcome that I wanted. Yeah. And when I wrote the outcome that I wanted, I wrote it for maybe like 10 days and I didn't feel it. It didn't feel good. I was writing it down. Yeah. My hand was getting tired because it was cramping, right? Yeah. But I didn't feel it. And then I had to think about it. I was like, okay, cool. Is your ultimate goal outcome based? Yeah. Meaning, the only thing you want to do is you just want to make it on tour, right? Cool. If that's your goal, so be it. But it didn't feel appropriate. Yeah. My goal is to play a very high level of golf. So being an amateur and a novice golfer, I have to go from being 18 handicap down to 10 handicap, from a 10 handicap down to a 5, from a 5 down to a scratch. So my more immediate goal is to become a scratch golfer. And as soon as I wrote down, I am a scratch golfer, right? Because I am is the most powerful sentence in the human language.
I was about to say that.
Right. So I am a scratch golfer. So I, the ego, am the being a scratch golfer, what I want. And within 30 days of writing that, I shot par on the front 9 of a course. But then old programming came in, and on the back 9 I shot my average.
Yeah. Okay.
So my affirmations are: money comes to me easily, frequently, and abundantly. It is absolutely crazy how many more opportunities financially have shown themselves or made their way to me in the past 60 days based off of just that affirmation, right? And then kind of the same thing with the golf. I shot par on a course on the front 9.
There's a few things that are happening here. That's probably a little bit more scientific. There's the RES, right? Reticular activating system. I think that's what the term is. We can check it later. Chat GPT. But when you see a red car, you see a bunch of red cars.
100%.
That's like the whole test.
100%.
Right? So when you start saying these things about yourself, like I'm a scratch golfer, or I'm bringing money comes to me abundantly, you're open to those opportunities. Most people don't see those opportunities because they're wired for the negative. Right? They're seeing the news, they're talking about the elections all day, right? Like it's like, dude, whatever. That's what you see, and that all comes to you as well, right? We said something in our last podcast. It was like 60 to 70,000 thoughts, or like 95% of them are the same, right? And negative. So by stating these affirmations, you can create a different thought pattern, and those thought patterns create new emotions. New emotions lead to new actions, and your results just change like crazy.
It changes your point of attraction between you and the universe.
Yeah.
100%.
And you know what? I think it's even okay saying some of those things and not believing it at first, because when you start saying those things, sometimes like you're like, oh crap, I actually shot a par. Stuff might actually be working. It's like it just starts like that. Like that's how my first 5 years of affirmation started. And then I started to notice, I was like, no, I'm going right to the emotion that I want to feel and not the belief. How can I structure these words appropriately that I can get that? Because that's what it is. That's actually what everyone wants. Everyone thinks they want the 6-pack abs. Everyone thinks they want the $1 million in their bank account. Everyone thinks they want the perfect relationship. But what they really want is the emotion they think they're going to get.
Everybody focus on the outcome.
Yes.
Not understanding that what they crave is the process.
Exactly. And I've learned this like over and over, and I still continue to learn it. There was a quote from Wayne Dyer or Ed Millett or Ed Dyer. I don't know. It's like a combination of both of them now.
I love it.
It's what happens when you're listening.
100%.
Or Ed Millett Durdak. I don't even know. Right? It's a triple whammy. But it was a good quote. You're going to love this quote. It was happiness is not a destination. Happiness is a frequency. And that's what affirmations will do.
100%.
Right? So that's why, guys, it's three sentences can have a massive impact. And it continues to give me a massive impact. Royce would be fumbling his words if I didn't say those 3 things in the restroom before we started.
Is that why you took so long?
Right? Well, no, I wanted to think of, I changed our intro a few times.
I love it.
But I remember, and that just like sets me, because I know if I have the emotion, the actions will come out correctly. And that's why I think people focus too much on like the how to. It's like, just get to the feeling. If you can get there, watch your world change. Watch what your body will do. Watch what your body will attract.
It's the whole, I think it's Tim Ferriss, to start with why.
Yeah.
The why is the better feeling emotion. Cool. Once you have whatever better feeling emotion that you are looking for, deconstruct from there. Start with that. I want to feel better. Okay, cool. Well, what does that look like to you? You want to feel better mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually? Choose one. Cool. Then what does that look like? And deconstruct it from there. But the emotions is energy and motion, right? That's what emotions are. They're energy and motion. So essentially what you're looking for is the catalyst or the impetus to start momentum for you.
Exactly. So money. All right. We could talk about affirmations the whole time. Let's go into reading.
Okay.
Because I think it builds right to it.
Yep.
Because one of the things is like, Royce, but I don't have any affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of the best ways to collect affirmations is through reading, right? And if you can't read, throw an Audible, but just make sure to do yourself a favor. When you hear something that's like, that just triggers you, changes your emotion. You know, when you hear a good quote, you're like, what? Right? I used to make the mistake of not writing that down. It's the biggest mistake. It's the biggest waste. It's like someone gave you a bunch of blue diamonds. I don't know if that's rare or not. Bunch of diamonds. And then you're like, and then you just kind of just discarded it.
Be like, okay, on to the next thing.
So if you heard like 1 or 2 nugget bombs and you didn't write that down, you're missing out on what it actually will produce, right? It actually is not diamond. It's more like a seed, right? So it's like, it's one seed. And if you continually nurture it and say it over and over, it will start to fruit, right? So are you looking to jumpstart your journey or just excited to take on a new challenge? Over the next 30 days, we are running our first ever cohort designed to get you easy wins in your fitness goals. Over the next 30 days, the team and I are going to be providing nutritional guidance, fitness support, and best of all, you're going to be surrounded with like-minded people that are looking to grow. If you've been looking to jumpstart your fitness, create new habits, start your weight loss goal, or maybe your workout's just been a little bit stale and you want to challenge yourself, this cohort is going to be for you. Now, if you're ready to take on this challenge, go to our show notes below, sign up to our free Move 30 challenge, and I'll see you guys there. Now, back to the show. Peace. Reading has been one of the best places for me to farm my new affirmations. None of the stuff that I'm saying, guys, is original. It's a combination of these people that wrote their stuff, listened to their podcast, their audibles, having conversations with Nick. Like he'll throw one and I'll throw one, and like it turns into this like a GMO seed of just amazing GMO seed now. Okay, so but that's what's happening. So I think so the next thing that I do in the morning is I make a conscious effort to read something. And it's not every day I'm going to get that sick nugget, right? But if you're reading 10 pages every day, I guarantee you in 1 week, you're going to get at least one quote or one idea that will completely pivot and change your life. And it's really sad because I feel like it's less and less now that I'm reading so many. I don't know if it's the same for you, but the first time I started reading, I was like,
gold.
Like, I've never heard this
whole
before.
book is gold.
Yeah, and now it's like the books are less gold. But when I do find one, I'm like, Nick, this is too many. You have to see this one, right? So that is really the purpose of reading for me, is to collect affirmations, collect thoughts, be a thought collector, be a quote collector. Really be an emotional collector at the end of it. Those quotes are giving you some type of emotion.
So consciously, that's what it's doing for you. Subconsciously, it's getting in your rest and digest. It's another form of meditation, essentially.
Yes.
So it's getting rid of your cortisol, allowing your body to regulate itself at a more optimal level.
I forgot about that. We're supposed to tie in stress to this. Right? So affirmation, if you're vibrating at a higher level, you're not getting into those lower stress levels, which ultimately is kind of what we're trying to do. You guys see why we're not losing? This is why it can lead to losing weight. Thanks, Nick. I thought we were just I'm going too much on the garlic, bro. Thanks for putting the ham on there.
I got you.
Okay, so and then the same thing. I think the reading side. It allows me to focus. I can't focus on too many things. I'm one word at a time. And it's very freeing, man. There's something about it. Like an Audible is cool, but I'm still distracted. But with the act of reading, it's very different.
Because it's engaging more of your senses, right? When you're listening to an Audible, it's really only engaging one sense, your hearing. But when you're reading a book, it's engaging your vision. It's engaging your touch. It's engaging your mind. It's engaging whatever senses, right? So you're engaging more senses, right? Because you can smell something as you're reading whatever you're reading, and it could have a profound impact on you. And whenever I think it's called your olfactory. Whenever you smell that scent again, whatever you were reading is going to pop back up in your brain.
100%. this sums up everything about stress, guys. If you want to reduce stress, anchor yourself to where your feet are.
100%.
Right? If you can get, and the way you do that is those 5 senses that you were talking about, right? Like, is the next one meditation?
ARM. Yep.
We know how to spell.
Like, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so reading will do that. So if you guys are not, I mean, start out with like 1 page, right? I mean, it's kind of silly. It's really hard to just read 1 page.
Start out with The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
There you go.
Start out that book. That book.
Yeah.
Changed my entire perspective on life. And that book's like maybe like 150 pages.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're really short pages because it's like mostly empty space and then like a small whatever he's writing.
Exactly.
But I remember after I read it, I would read 1 to 2 pages and I need to take a nap because my brain's over here trying to process it.
Dude, that book is so crazy.
It is so good.
If you look at my book, I don't know if someone borrowed it and it was like, hey, just like if there's like little water droplets on there, it's just my water. I spilled my water on
100%. Or if there's like some crumbs.
Yeah, you're just tearing up on it. It was so deep.
So good.
So that was a multi-highlighter for me because that was one of my first few books.
100%. I remember when you told me to read that one and I read it and I was just mind blown. So what I'll say is reading for me, so like when we're doing something like the 75 Hard, personal development books, love them, right? Can gobble it all up. But what I found out recently within the past, like, let's say 3 months is I was burnt on them, right?
Just
I'm
reading
burnt on personal development and self-help, right? Which isn't necessarily a fun place to be because I love that.
Yeah.
I'm all about that.
I think it's a part of the process.
100%.
Yeah.
And so reading for me these days isn't so much personal development. Like I still get those. I still listen to all the podcasts. I'm still getting that in a different form. Reading for me these days has turned into more of, was it fiction? Because nonfiction's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's turned into more of fiction. And how I figured out that this needed to be the direction I was going in is I had, what was the book? I had a wonderful Brene Brown book. I can't even remember.
Is it
Gift of Imperfections? That's
okay,
I'm pretty sure that's the name of the book.
She had a leadership book.
Yeah, bro. She's phenomenal. Shout out Brene Brown. Gift of Imperfections. I had that book and it's absolutely wonderful. It's not a very big book, but I was just so like gassed on it. And I would, reading a singular page was a daunting task, let alone reading 10. And so what I ended up doing is I put that book on the shelf and then I got gifted a book called The Name of the Wind for my birthday. I picked up that book, okay, after like struggling to read for like at least a month or two. Yeah, The Name of the Wind. Oh. It's called The Name of the Wind.
Okay.
I picked up that book, and the first time I sat down to read it, I read like 30 pages. And so that was the indication to me, like, oh, okay, cool. Personal development is always going to be there. Personal development is something you're in love with. You're always going to be striving to be better in that regard, and that material will always be there. Right now, at this current moment in time, what you need to establish this reading habit isn't personal development.
Yeah.
You got to go back to fiction.
Yeah.
So my reading these days is a little bit more fiction based. So that way I can find the enjoyment in reading again to therefore pepper in some personal development.
Yeah. And again, that's part of the building the Christmas morning.
100%.
If you don't want to read that book and you're waking up to read that book, you ain't going to want to like wake up.
Nope, not at all.
Here's what I learned with books. And I got this from, I think the book is called How to Read a Book. That's what it was
called. Me about this book.
And it was it had a metaphor. And it was like books are like alcoholic beverages. There's ones that you just take a shot, right? There's ones that you sip on because it's just like you have to like savor it. There's ones that you drink a beer with your friends. And then there's ones that you sip and you're just like, this is disgusting. Books are like that. Like there's going to be books that are really just quick. Like just take the shots. It was like, what are the pragmatic stuff? Oh, I like that chapter. I need that skill set. I need that tool set. Awesome. Like, let's just take a shot. Boom, drop it. Right. And then there's other books like that. The oneness book that you had, that's a wine book. That's a book where you're like, you can just look at the sentence for 4 hours.
Yep. Or Conversations with God.
Yes.
bro.
Yeah. Conversations with God. So like there's books where you just look at one word and you're like, I can just sit here for days.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's beer books where you're like, dude, did you like listen to the Power of 5 a.m. Club?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we
Mm-hmm.
talk about those ones. Those are
Mm-hmm.
beer books because it builds connection. It's a really cool story around it. I think there's like, and then there's some books that you read, you're like, this is just like, it's not my taste.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
It's just
saying it's a
not for
bad
me.
book.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Like for instance, I can't drink, what's that licorice drink shot?
Ugh, you're talking
Do you see
about.
what I mean?
You're talking about
Jaeger bombs.
Jaeger. Yep. Ugh.
Do you see what I mean?
Ugh.
There's certain books like that for me, and it's okay. So, guys, if you are in the journey of reading a book, I think it's important to understand like if you don't like it, it might not be the flavor for you,
Mhm. Or it may not just
right?
be. It may not be for you yet.
Yeah, you might not. Yeah,
Put it on the shelf. Come back to it in 6 months.
that was kind of like wine for me. Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
took me a long time to really enjoy wine. I don't drink
Mm-hmm.
anymore, but it took me years to really, really enjoy wine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and
Oh,
then beer, like I can't even stand it anymore.
I'd rather eat
Do you
my
know what I mean?
calories than drink my calories.
Exactly. So, like, guys, this is books. If you're drinking, you know what I'm talking about,
100%.
right?
It's
But
gonna
you got to
resonate with
try it.
somebody.
Okay. But this is the better, more healthier version.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's one quote.
Mm-hmm.
Like dig deep on a 600 word or 600 page book. If you
Mhm.
get one, it's like, it's so pivotal. And that's why I do it every morning. Because what if it's the morning, right? It's Thursday morning that I get the quote that's going to change my whole direction of my year.
Mm-hmm.
I have some quotes that's changed my entire life.
There's so as we're talking about this, have you ever read the book Think Like a Monk by Jay
Yeah.
Shetty?
Oh, yeah.
So the quote of I am not what I think I am.
Yeah.
I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am has stuck with me.
That's a wide one. Someone's going to replay. There's going to be a spike on this because they're like, oh, crap. What did he say? Let's repeat that.
Bro, that was so fire. And I came to understand a lot more about myself as I read that book, but I also came to understand a lot more about others, right? Because you was a broad example, right? But you are not what you think you are. You're not what I think you are. You are acting what you think I think you are. Right? Yeah. Living in that realm.
Yeah.
And then that was, like you said, there was, out of the whole book, there was, if you haven't read Think Like a Monk, read Think Like a Monk because Jay Shetty is a genius.
That book had a lot of
practical things that you could do. I read that book in a week.
Yeah.
I don't read any books in a week. I read that book in a week. Right? But that is one of the biggest nuggets that I got from that in understanding myself a little bit more, but then also on the flip coin, understanding others.
Yes. And then you feel more gratitude.
100%.
Right? You
Gratitude's
feel more at
up.
peace. You're never angry. You're less judgmental. You're more
100%.
curious.
That's what I was going to get to.
Again,
curiosity.
Emotions.
100%.
You guys see what's going on here, guys?
Like these two motherfuckers always talking about emotions.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's the way.
It's the way, man. I'm telling you.
It's the way you get those emotions regulated. You can take over the world.
It's exactly it, man. You know, sometimes it's hard to like, how are you able to do all of these workouts? Like, how can you do that? And I'm just like, the emotions. But they're gonna be like, what are you talking about?
You're like, what? Or some people, or some people are gonna think it's floofy.
It
like,
is.
Get these emotions.
I would
get these emotions away from me. You're like, oh, okay, cool. That's that emotion right there. That's called denial.
Yeah, I'm running on like an energy frequency. I'm on a vibration, right? It's like it's hard to explain it, but this is our attempt to try to explain this. And it's not just one thing. It's a cocktail of habits that we've decided to accumulate over time. That's
trial and error.
Yeah, right. So, boom, we got affirmations, we got reading, we got meditation. Let's go with oxidative stress, which is exercise.
We didn't really talk about meditation. What is
did we do meditation?
No, we got lost on reading,
so sorry, bro. Yeah, let's go to meditation. This is a big one.
I love meditation.
Everyone knows oxidative stress. You breathe a lot. Your heart starts beating better. You get more muscles. Boom, we can skip that one. We talk about that stuff all the time. I'm kidding. No, we'll dive into it. Let's talk about meditation. Meditation is all right. First off, were you very similar to me when someone was like this, when I hired Jim, I was like, this guy's gonna tell me to freaking breathe in a shower for 40 minutes. I know it. So mad, right? But he did it. He didn't do that first. And eventually he's kind of the way he sold me was the science. Parasympathetic and sympathetic. And I was like,
rest and digest,
fight or flight.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, you're speaking my language. This is psychology or physiology.
Yep, 100%.
Right. And I was like, okay, oh, that makes sense. It's like anytime I'm angry, yeah, that's kind of what I look like and how I breathe. And initially I did it for the physiology side. And primarily it is like there's certain days where I'm so sore. I'm like, I'm just going to meditate. I have knots everywhere. I can feel it. Right. And then it got into like some deeper stuff, like reconnecting with who I am entirely. Like there's some foofy moments where I'm like, I think I'm speaking to someone at this level of state, right?
Yeah, you're talking to Royce.
Yeah.
So being a Royce. So what was your first experience with meditation?
It was the hardest thing in the world.
100%. So paint me a picture. I don't know what that looks like for you.
Oh,
You've done 1,000 MRFs in 1,000 days. Like, what does hardest thing in the world look like to you?
So the hardest thing in the world. So the first time I meditated, he just told me to just put a clock on for 1 minute, and I closed my eyes, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, I'm gonna go text this mofo. Be like, bro, that was torture, right? But then you made you realize like you can't even sit 1 minute alone. How tortured is your mind not being able to sit there? So I had two revelations. One, I couldn't stand myself. And two, why couldn't I stand myself? So once that happened, I was like, okay, I got to unpack this. So our next session, I was like, this is what happened. And we just started to unravel so many things. And this is what the biggest learning thing that I got from meditation. I didn't like myself, which is very hard to run a business, very hard to run a team if you hate yourself. How can you bring people to a person you hate?
100%.
Right? So that meditation unlocked that for me because it started to clear out my thoughts. It started to, again, kind of create a lot of the physiology stuff that we were talking about. And it just became more of a practice. 1 minute became 2, 2 minutes became 5, 5 minutes became 10. Sometimes I would do an hour. Sometimes I would do 30 minutes. Sometimes I was like, oh, I can only do 6 breaths. Right? And some of them were like, I'm going to meditate the whole day. Like those are really hard to do. But yeah, it's an absolute game changer.
So the first time I sat down to try to meditate, set a 5-minute timer. I was like, cool, 5 minutes. We're just going to sit here and breathe, figure out what this meditation thing's all about. I think I made it like 2 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes. And I was like, I got to go do anything else because this is like the biggest waste of time. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to go play video games. I'm going to go play basketball. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to do a workout. Like, I got to go do something, right? And I think you hit it on the head. A lot of people don't like being alone, first and foremost, right? But a lot of people don't like meditation because it forces you to be alone with yourself. And if you don't like yourself, all of a sudden when you're sitting alone in a meditation, you're in bad company. But there's no company. It's only you. Right? So it really brings massive awareness to where you're at in relation to how you feel about yourself. Because if you can't sit there and breathe with just your being, there's a plethora of other things that you won't be able to do and won't be able to do at a high level. So that was one of the things it brought to my awareness was, oh, okay, cool. You don't like yourself enough to sit down with yourself. Like there's a problem there. But also it was, I don't remember who said it. But it was, they broke it down into like a muscle that needs training, right? So I kind of flipped the narrative and was like, oh, okay, cool. ADD, ADHD, never been diagnosed, but all that stuff resonates, right? Like when I read about it, I'm like, oh, wow, I have a lot of those tendencies. So what meditation has started to do for me and continues to do for me to this day is it helps me train my attention. right? Because everything in today's day and age is getting at your attention. This thing, as absolutely wonderful as it is,
Destructive too.
it's so destructive because all it's asking for is your attention, your time, your energy, your effort. Where your attention goes, your energy flows.
Yes.
That is priceless. And you won't know just how priceless it is until something happens, right? Luckily, it was meditation that brought awareness to, okay, cool. A, your relationship with yourself isn't the best, right? And B, your attention is everywhere.
Right.
We'll call it a selling point. You know, me and selling got a whole thing, but we'll call it one of the selling points I talk to people about when it comes to meditation is it allows you to stay on a train of thought for the entire thought train. That was one of the most very profound things that it has done and continues to do, right? ADD, ADHD, who knows? But what that means is I'm going here, and then I'm gonna go here, then I'm gonna go here, then I'm gonna come back to here, then I'm gonna go over here, then I'm gonna come back. One of the things that makes me like a great coach is like I'm really ADD, so like singular focus, I could do it.
Yeah.
It takes a lot out of me, but I can do it,
Yeah.
right? But when I have a class of like 10 to 17 people and I just get to bounce off and it's like, oh, okay, cool. I can do all these different things. I can do it at a high level because that attention, right? When I'm here, when I'm present with you, when we're locking eyes, cool. I'm 100% here.
Yeah.
But as soon as that's over, cool. I'm gone. I'm off to the next thing. Right. And so what meditation has allowed, one of the myriad of things that it's allowed me to stay on a train of thought to the conclusion of that train of thought before starting or jumping to another one.
So good.
And then that just propels into much more quality thoughts.
Yeah.
They're not all fragmented.
I love it. So as you're kind of, there's two things now. There's two things that meditation, and one can be kind of provocative here. But the first one is an excretion of just like poop, right? Like you have all these good thoughts and then you have poop thoughts.
Yeah, 100%.
So when you're
Trash.
actually meditating, it's like the act of taking a number 2 with your brain. It clears your thoughts out. There's some really
100%.
good thoughts there, but there's a lot of crappy thoughts there that need to be
100%.
purged.
100%.
And for me, some of the best purging times of those thoughts are in the meditations itself. And then another reflection, that's a big one too, which is essentially reflection and meditation combined with movement. And it just clears that out. So like, and sleep will do that as well, right? So I'm just purging really, really just unessential thoughts that no longer serve me, or perhaps even doing a lot of damage, right? So just being able to sit still and just seeing it play in your head over and over and over again and questioning it, where is this coming from, is very purging in general. So that's one part. It's a great way to do a number 2 for your crappy thoughts. Okay? All right. The second one, I don't know which podcast I listened to this, but or maybe I was speaking to Yoni, one of the yogis, and he was explaining to me, as like, when you're aroused by your loved one, right? You get an erection, right? And then that erection leads to procreation. I was going to say butt stuff. But I was kidding.
Shout out Tara.
I'm just kidding.
That's hilarious.
But procreation.
Yep.
Okay, so it leads to that. So again, in meditation doesn't necessarily lead to that. It leads to, like, when I picture myself being successful or getting that high level of accomplishment, I feel at peace. So you're priming your body to be in that vessel. Because at the end of the day, if you think you're going to get that promotion, you're going to marry the love of your life, you're going to get that 6-pack, somewhere along those emotional presence that you're trying to capture is peace, is contentness. Like,
whether you know it or not.
Whether you know it or not. How amazing would it be if you can prepare your body to get into that level? Because most people's bodies are not prepared to get that level of contentment, prepared to that level of like peace. There's a reason why the posture looks more upright than someone that's just extremely kyphotic. Like peace is a posture. Content is a posture. And just like pain and just like depression, just like anxiety. And if you position your body in some of those negative ways, I guarantee you'll probably get a majority of those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start preparing your posture to change through meditation,
Mm-hmm.
even from the hands, I don't know the hand stuff, you probably know more because you're a yogi. Even from the hand
Mm-hmm.
has significant emotional effects and
Mm-hmm.
manifestations. And man,
I think
for sure.
meditation, we could go off for a really long time on meditation.
Yeah.
One of the things, so two things. One of the things meditation does is it really allows you to be the observer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I phrase a question to you, Royce, are you your body?
No.
Are you your mind?
No.
What are you?
Soul.
What is your soul?
I have no idea.
Cool.
Still trying to figure it out.
Right? That's fine. But by understanding that you're not the physical accumulation of all the stuff that you've eaten over the past week or the past 30 plus years, right? Understanding that you are not this thing that has 70,000 thoughts in a day and 95% of them are negative because you're unaware of them and they're repeating thoughts, right?
Yeah.
I'm not this. I'm not this, right? I'm not the conscious. I'm not even really the subconscious, right? The habits, the accumulation of all the stuff. What are you? You're your soul. Okay, cool. What's the soul? Some would say it's energy, right?
Yeah.
Some would say it's connected to the ether. It's particles. It's the universe. But what meditation does is it allows you to get connected with that, right? So when meditating, we'll say selling point for meditation when I talk to people about meditation is I always try to talk to them about box breathing. Right.
Yeah,
and so
that's a really great way to do it.
imagine a box, you inhale for a count, you hold for that same count, you exhale for a count, and you hold that exhale for a count. What that does, the most important part out of all of that is the exhale hold. And the reason being that I've found in my experience, don't know if it's, but whatever. In my experience, the most profound part of that is the exhale hold. Because if you exhale all the air out of your body,
CO2.
And you're holding it.
Yeah.
The longer you hold it, I have everybody start at anywhere from 3 to 5. Then you work your way up. Sometimes when you get somewhere between 7 and 10, it gets really, really tough, especially the exhale hold. And that's because your body, as soon as you're exhaling and holding, your body's like, hey, we need to breathe. And your mind's like, hey, we need to breathe. And you're like, no, we don't need to breathe yet.
Yeah.
We're completely fine.
Wow.
So it helps you create space. Yes, it helps you create the space between your mind, the thoughts that you have, and the sensation that you have in your body.
Right.
Because you are neither of those. You are the soul, right? You are the we'll say program from the universe that is inhabiting a body. And so what it does is it gets you more in tune and in connection with that.
Yeah.
And you can move from that place, right? So what it does is it creates space. Same thing with journaling. We'll get there. But that's what journaling does as well, is what it allows you to do is you put your thoughts down on paper, right? So it does a couple of things. First thing is by getting them down on paper, you're clearing some of the internet browsers, we'll say, right? Yeah. You're clearing some of the internet browser window tabs that you have open in your brain. You're getting it down on a piece of paper. Also, at the same time, you're embedding some of that paper with the emotion that you feel in relation to some of those tabs and or those thoughts, right? And then after you write it down, you've created some space or some separation, right? So therefore, you're able to gain a greater perspective. That's all meditation is.
I'm going to print this transcript. They're going to have to highlight every single thing. They're like, dude, we highlighted too many stuff there. Bro. I have to write that part down. That was a revelation for me. I hated that part. The exhale part where you're the Wim Hof, you're like, 30 seconds of this?
You're like, I'm going to die.
But I didn't realize how, the way you exposed it was like, it starts to separate your identity towards the body, which is one of my biggest fears, by the way. If my body just goes to trash, that would be my biggest fear, right? But then again, it's not mine, right? I can control it in some way. So separating those two is huge.
Same thing same kind of concept in relation to a cold shower, right? You tell somebody to take a cold shower, what do they do? Like, no. I'm not gonna do it, right? Like they get massive buck back. Why? Okay, it's cold. Get over it. Why?
That's true. Yeah.
Because it gives you a snapshot, just like meditation, just like journaling, to where you really are in the moment. What happens when you get in the cold shower? You get in. What's your first thing you do? Well, you probably start swearing, right? You mentally or physically contract.
Yeah.
Right? So you hop in there, you get in the cold water, all of a sudden you're like, getting away from the cold water. So you had a physical reaction. Based off that physical reaction, then what are you telling yourself in your brain, right? You're telling, this is awful. Why am I doing this? This is so dumb. I hate Royce for telling me to do this. There's not going to be any benefits, right?
Yeah.
So all it's doing is it's really giving you a real-time snapshot as to where you are within yourself. Because you're not your brain. You're not the negative thoughts that you have. Yeah. You're not your body. You're not the sensations that it's feeling. You're something completely different. So if you can find the courage to take a cold shower and observe yourself while you're in the cold shower, just like meditation, just like journaling, it'll give you another perspective on yourself. And it'll let you know what your, we'll say, knee-jerk reaction or response is to a stimulus.
What this is bringing up for me is it starts to expose who really is in control. Is it your body or your mind, right? Most people, at least for me, prior to pre-meditation Royce, pre-cold shower Royce, pre-journaling Royce, pre-affirmation Royce, pre-reading Royce, pre-oxidative stress Royce, the body was in control.
100%.
Zero mind.
100%.
And as we started to implement some of these things, it's not that the mind is completely in control. Now those two are dancing together. And that's what it's really about, right? So like for a while, like, the first like 90 days, it was kind of hard to jump in the shower. Now it's just like, let's go.
I take more cold showers than I take warm showers.
Yeah. And it's like, and that's when you're not scared of it anymore. That's when you know your mind and your body's aligned. And you're in a really, really good spot, right? And that's why we push our bodies to different limits. Shout out, by the way, James destroyed my body today. The hardest workout this year. You know what this fool did?
What did he do?
Can I share this real quick, guys?
I'm listening.
Right? It was the holds.
EMOM, 16-minute EMOM, yep.
So first off, he kept on adding more weight to my holds. Like
what were you holding? Like
a 25-pound plate,
above
hollow
your head?
body.
Hollow body hold? Okay,
yeah,
word.
but with the plate, I was like, cool, I can do that. And he'd add another one. And then he added another one. And then this fool, the last minute, turns off the music. There's no music. And he was like, you're going to suffer in silence. And here's another plate. And I was like, what? Right? So I anchored to the present, and the present was pain, right? My abs were falling apart. You know me and abs, I skip it all the time, right? I skip that little bad boy all the time. And my heart rate, like the sweating, like it was so intense. But again, like that's when you have those really interesting opportunities when you can have a direct connection with your mind and your body. And that's why I think a lot of the discomfort can elicit that level of like awareness and presentness, but you have to take the mind with you. Right?
Who's the one being aware of the mind and who's the one being aware of the body?
Me, right? The
okay,
soul.
What is me? Me is me. There you go. So spirit. me is ego. Right? Soul and spirit, whatever the definitions are to you. When you're able to, so it sounded like what James did is he forced you to be present, right? And then you had to observe where your mind was at, and you had to observe the sensations you felt in your body. Because in that moment, when you were in the pain cave, you weren't your thoughts, and you weren't the sensations you were feeling in your body. You were the observer of them, right?
Yeah. I'm going to steal that, by the way. You know how you turn it up right when the last minute hits? And I'm like, let's go. And the pain feels great. This cat. I was like, what's happening right now? I don't know if he's been doing that, but dude, I was like, my Saturday class is going to feel it.
James always playing psychological warfare. 100%.
Yeah, 100%. So I loved it, man. I loved it, and I also hated it at the same time.
Perfect life.
Yeah, it's like I miss it. It's like the cold showers don't do the same as it was. Cold plunges might be a lot different. That might be a little spicy.
I don't have anywhere to cold plunge, or else I would.
Yeah. So meditation, guys, game changer. Start out with 1 minute. I do 10 minutes every single day. Sometimes I'll do even longer. Where do you think people should start?
That's a great question. If it's your first time meditating, I think 60 seconds to 5 minutes, somewhere in that range. That'll be really good for you. And then again, if it's your very first time, 60 seconds to 5 minutes, at the end of or whenever you finish, write down 3 things that you noticed.
Mm.
right? Just gain a
Yeah.
deeper level of awareness, because that's the point of the whole practice is
Yeah.
awareness, right? You're training your attention, and your attention is on your awareness. So therefore, it's what are you being aware of in those moments?
Yes.
So I would say anywhere between 1 to 5 minutes. I love 20-minute meditations. I do a little
Mm-hmm.
stretching while I do it, a little yoga, a little yin.
Yeah.
And I also love my hour-long meditations.
Those are hard.
Oh,
I'll
I
do
love
those
them
like
so much.
like maybe once a month.
Yeah.
Not even once a quarter, dude. Those are deep for me.
I'm trying to get to do it once a
Yeah.
week.
You know what comes up to me is time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I have to battle. I
Mm-hmm.
realize now that I'm like, oh, once I hit that 30-minute mark, I'm like, I could be doing something way better than this,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's like what I need to battle.
So my question to you before we move on from meditation, because I absolutely love meditation. My
Yeah.
question to you is, when do you meditate?
Morning. Sometimes in the afternoon too.
Why in the morning?
It's just for my day. I think most people are like this. It's chaotic once the day starts.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I have clients texting me. I have more
Mm-hmm.
distractions. Like I have to put out certain fires. I got to shoot content like
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
Right. It's just I just know I don't have as much control of my day during the day. The best time where I have control is when no one is awake, aside
Mhm.
from Lucas. But
Bro, be like
yeah.
Eric Thomas. Wake up at 3.
Dude,
You have 3 to
dude,
5. You could have
killing
2
me,
hours. You could
man.
have 2 hours to yourself.
You know what's
bro.
gonna happen is Lucas is gonna wake up at 3 and then I'm screwed. Right? So
So, point of reference. You do it in the morning.
I do.
So, I've been playing with this. Me and meditation have been friends for at least the past 5 years to some degree. So, I've been playing with this. On the days when I don't meditate, I am way more observant of myself because I want to see it's essentially like rolling back the curtains and seeing what's still there to work on, right? I find when I don't meditate, I'm a little bit more reactive.
Yeah.
When I don't meditate, I can get annoyed a little bit easier. When I don't meditate, I'm a little off kilter, right? And I feel it, but it's I used to beat myself up for it, but now it's like, oh, okay, cool. If you missed it for whatever reason, now you just have an opportunity to observe where you still need to do the work, right? I'm exactly like you. I like to do my meditating in the morning. The reason I like to do my meditating in the morning is it sets a point of reference for you to be able to come back to, because 9 times out of 10, the most peaceful part of anybody's day is right in the morning when they wake up before life happens. So if you can expand that moment by 5 minutes, by 10 minutes, by 20 minutes, by an hour, whatever happens in your day, you've already set that point of reference for your body first thing in the morning. So let's say you have a super stressful day and your cortisol is through the roof. If you started off your morning with a meditation, you can sit for 30 seconds to a minute, get back in that same breathing rhythm, and your body will be like, oh, we remember this. We did this to start out the day. Let's get our point of reference back there. It's kind of like to think of it as Tony Robbins talks about your thermostat. I like to think about it as your thermostat for the day. If you can wake up and meditate and set your point of reference to peaceful, the likelihood that you can work your way back to peaceful, regardless of what happens throughout your day, is a lot higher.
That's where you start. I think that's the easiest place to start.
Oh, 100%.
I've been watching anime. You ever watch Demon Slayer?
I've heard about that
Dude, it's all about breath work.
Ooh,
So anyways, like they have different breathing
techniques.
techniques. But he's leveling up. He's turning to this like high level ranking Hashira or something like that. I think that's the highest level.
Yep.
And in order to get to that level, you got to be able to meditate for 24 hours, even when you're training, even when you're sleeping, right? So I find myself actually breathing in the car. I find myself breathing in my workouts, like getting into like, I'm going to do a box breathing session right here, right in this mix. And it's really cool. Once you start implementing it in your life, it really sets the direction entirely. So it's like, if you don't have a minute there, like throw it in your car drive. Throw it into your 1 minute rest in between 3 sets of 10 on your bench press. I don't know,
100%.
you know? So it's like you can actually, if that's another way you can pepper it in, but I really started in the morning. And then only when I understood its benefits physically and who I'm attracting and how my body's recovering, I started implementing it like all the time. Like I saw you the other day just meditating in your car.
I did that before I came in.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, what? Like it really sets you apart. It really it's an unfair advantage because everyone is freaking out throughout the day. And then this this little sunshine comes in. It's like, hey, what's going on, man? Just throws you off.
So one more thing on meditation, and it'll work into the oxidative. You ready? So one of the things I've found with meditation, so whenever I start my meditations off in the morning, yes, I'll end up working my way to box breathing somehow. But let's say I wake up and my nose is stuffy. Allergy season, it's windy, lots of stuff in the air, right? Yeah. So I wake up and my nose is stuffy, whether it's both nostrils, whether it's one nostril, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll wake up and I'll do some dragon's breath. So that's basically panting through your nose, not through your mouth. So it's like... Right.
Yeah,
so
like
do it that
That's a
way.
fun one.
I'll do it clamping one nostril off. I'll do it clamping the other nostril
Yeah.
off. Then I'll do it that. Every time, 100% of the time,
Yeah.
after I meditate in the morning, let's say I wake up and both my nostrils are stuffed. By the time I'm done with my 20-minute meditation, I can breathe.
Yeah.
And like, if you've ever been stuffed up for like a day or two and you're like, my life freaking sucks because I'm stuffed up.
Yeah.
Sit down for 20 minutes and meditate and breathe. What it does is it oxygenates your system, right? Again, back to the box breathing. And I don't know this for a fact. I have a theory. Once I become a gazillionaire, I'll fund some research, right?
No, don't tell him meditation's gonna cure their aches because we're gonna get canceled.
Bro,
right?
Cure their aches. It'll help your lymph circulate. It'll lower your cortisol. So many benefits, right? But part of what it does is when you inhale, you're going to inhale for whatever your count is, and you're pulling in O2, oxygen. When you hold, what I think happens, what I would like to think happens is your body absorbs more of it.
Yeah.
So as you're holding that air within you, your body is absorbing more of the O2. Therefore, your lymph system can work more efficiently. Therefore, your blood can pump more efficiently. And when your blood and your lymph circulate more efficiently, that's a whole part of the rest and digest, right? Gets rid of the cortisol, keeps you out of fight or flight, gets you into your parasympathetic, your rest and digest, and it circulates everything.
Dude, you start losing more body fat.
100%.
What's that body fat layer that's more internal? There's subcutaneous fat, and then there's the other fat.
Yeah. You want to know what's funny? As I was thinking subcutaneous, so I'm happy I didn't say it.
Subcutaneous is like the good one, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But
Man,
it keeps you in that burn, or it starts off your burn.
Yeah.
So oxygenating your system is very important. You can do it through meditation, or you can do it through moving your body physically.
This guy just blended it in.
Told you I was going
This
to.
guy just ripped it. Yeah, dude. I mean, the whole oxygen thing is money. Like, we can go over diseases and all of those things. Like, meditation is just too dang powerful. Right? There's not a lot of money to be paid around it. That's why people don't really say anything around it. But dude, I'm telling you, a majority of the crazy workouts that I'm doing a lot of times evolve around it. Like some of my longer meditations was because I was so trashed. And I'm a big believer that if I take in more oxygen, my body can heal itself.
100%.
And I'm a big believer, whether it's placebo or actually like physiological, it's working.
So
right?
It's not a placebo, because the more oxygen you have in your system, the less likely you are to have disease, right?
Yeah.
Disease of the mind, disease of the body, or disease, period.
Yeah.
The more oxygen you have in your system, the less likely you are to have cancer.
Yes.
And if you have cancer, the more likely you are to fight it off.
Yeah. So, man, there's something that's like that I wanted to say around this. It was around, oh my gosh. Just keep talking next, so I don't look as dumb here.
So
figure it out.
Also, right? So like we have people come in all the time, and they could be in a grumpy mood. I love go
toxic.
Go.
You know how some people are like, man, that person is so toxic, right? Like the people that are in that state of toxicity, they have a breathing pattern. One, they have a shallow breathing. They have a kyphotic look. They have a rounded look around them. Like, I don't want to hang out with that person. They're so toxic. So it's like CO2 is toxic. So if you're more CO2 than oxygen, technically you're toxic.
Disease.
Right? You're disease. And the other side is soda's CO2, and you're chugging that thing all day too.
For real.
Right? And it's like, no, you're supposed to exhale CO2, not inhale and drink it. So if someone was like, hey, dude, you're kind of toxic, you should probably meditate for a while.
100%. Alkalize yourself.
So, okay. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for giving him that buffer. We're going to keep that in. Royce messes up too. I lost my train of thought.
But it's one of those things. It's like so I had an example. One of my athletes came in on Monday of this week, and she was just off her game. She's been off her game for a little while. We see burnout coming, but we have to wait for it to get to a certain level before we can really talk to you about it, because you're not going to believe us. And then if we talk too much in the beginning and then it happens, then you're like, whatever I say, you're going to be like, I told you so. And it's not an I told you so thing. It's I've just been observing this for long enough that it's become a pattern. So anyway, she came in. She was off her game. She's been off her game for a while, but she was really off her game. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it was kind of a struggle to get her into the gym. Yeah. But once I got her into the gym, we had chat on Monday. So nothing crazy, just repetitive movement, 40, 45, 50 minutes of just straight working. Yeah. And after the workout, she said to me, "Thank you for getting me here. I needed that." Wow. All we forced her to do was to breathe. That's it. She regulated herself. She ended up feeling better. And that's par for the course wherever you go, right? If you're having a bad day, come work out. If you're having a good day, come work out. Yeah. If you're anywhere in between, come work out. Yeah. Because at the end of your workout, you're going to end up feeling better. Yeah. If you're sick, come work out.
Yeah. So oxidative stress.
100%.
I feel like we should just kind of skip it because we always work out. But let's talk about why it's so beneficial. Like, I mean, we've been talking about taking an oxygen as a meditation process. Mm-hmm. Now we're talking about stressing it out, stressing the body. Like, why should you don't have to necessarily. I try to get my workouts in the morning as best as I possibly can. Very similar to meditation. I just have more control towards it. Another way is it actually stimulates me to think quicker. Like it just wakes me up.
You're a different person in the morning versus when you do it in the evening. Yeah, 100%.
And I have all this pent up stress and ideas. And when I'm done working out, you get this like, I'm good, right?
Now I can go about my day.
Mm-hmm. So I get into this state of the best definition that I could, or a metaphor that I could, is like, I'm not chasing after my day anymore. I'm way ahead of it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm allowing it to come to me.
Yeah, let it come to you. And now you're present again. Now 100%. You're anchoring to the present again. So it's just, so adding the oxidative part of that, yeah, sure, it's going to help me get leaner, lose weight. But for me, to be completely honest, it just anchors me to the moment. I let it come to me. I just feel more relaxed.
Mental and emotional regulation.
100%.
I was working at Lifetime the other day, and that was one of the questions that I asked in my class. I was like, what's your why for fitness? Yeah. And it's amazing how many people got stumped. Yeah. And I told them, I was like, my why for fitness these days is mental and emotional regulation.
That's it. The dopamine side of things, right? It's like
regulating it. Because you can regulate yourself. Mm-hmm. Most people just don't know how to. If you don't have a meditation practice, if you don't have a gratitude practice, if you don't have a journaling practice, if you're not reading enough.
Mm-hmm. And here's what's really cool about Nick, guys. He can find what's not regulated when you're working out. Right? Like he knows the body so well that anytime I'm in there or if I'm anxious, you're like, bro, you need to roll out your traps. And I'm like, dang it, man. Right? So through movement, you can almost identify the emotional state that you're in. I think injuries too will manifest for me. 100%. And then I'm like, oh, there's something I'm dealing with that I don't quite know about.
100%.
Why is that happening? Why is my back giving out? Right? 100%. Why is my neck and shoulder giving out? Why is my elbow giving out?
100%.
So it's a huge regulator.
I was gifted this book that is something on, it's the title, something along the lines of like the psychological meaning behind physical symptoms. Mm-hmm. And I gave it to my mom. My parents came to visit me probably a month or two ago. Mm-hmm. And we're having this it was actually for my birthday. So it was 2 months ago anyway. Yeah. And so we were just kind of hanging out in my apartment and just doing stuff. Me and my dad and my brother had just gotten back from like golfing. And I was like, oh, Mom, look at this book. I was gifted this book for my birthday from someone whose opinion I really admire because she's dived super deep into this stuff. Mm-hmm. And it, again, title's basically psychological meanings behind physical symptoms, right? Mm-hmm. And so I handed it to her, and my mom was in a happy-go-lucky mood. Yeah. Within 5 minutes, she went through a wider range of emotions, right? Mm-hmm. Because every ailment that she's had in her body, she was looking it up. And that's the whole reason I gave her the book. She was
Yeah.
looking up all the different ailments, and you could see how it was affecting her. At one point in time, within that 5-minute span, I looked at her. I was like, "You good? Are you okay? Like, what's going
Yeah.
on over there?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm good." And later on, she let me know that the book is 100% on point. All the things that she's had ailments with in her life,
Yeah.
she's read. She just looked at the
Is
psychological
it like
meaning
the body
behind it.
keeps the score kind
So
of
the body,
book?
so the body keeps the score is an amazing book. Shout
Yeah.
out, like that is a phenomenal book.
Kind of covers that a little bit too. Or
We'll say a
differently?
little bit more in depth.
Okay.
Body keeps the score talks a little bit more in depth of like causations,
Okay.
right, and the emotional aspect of it.
Mhm.
This book just states, like, okay, your right ankle hurts. It could be one of these three things.
Yeah.
And one of the three
I
things
think
is
you
going to
showed
resonate.
me.
Yeah.
You showed me my back one is always financial. You're
So
like, you should read this, bro.
financial,
And I'm
low
like, "Dang
back's
it."
usually stability. Hips is
Yeah.
usually fear. Like there's
Yeah.
so many
Spot
correlations
on.
there.
Yeah. And dude, my back always blows out like at tax season.
100%.
I'm like
100%.
what? Where did this
100%.
tax bill come from? My back blew out is because of those box jumps. Bro, ain't no box jumps.
100%.
Something else going on, man.
100%.
So yeah, like I love that. I mean, so that's one element to it. It's like there's multiple elements to it. Another element to it is this is why I love CrossFit, because we do so many movements, right? You ever have a client that's like been a runner for so long, and then all of a sudden they do a snatch, and they're like, "This is my favorite movement," right? That movement is a position for accomplishment, right? And we're so wired to move one particular way, but dude, you're holding a vessel of emotions only geared towards one direction. If you explore what the human body can do, I would argue you would probably have more emotions, and that's what life is really about. Experiencing as many emotions. There was like a quote, like a perfect day is if you cry, laugh, and smile, it's a perfect day,
Mhm.
or something like that, right? And I agree with that.
100%, because we're here to have an experience. We're here to have the human experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, the day before. It blows my, like, we're here to experience life.
Right.
Life is when you stand on top of a mountain and you look
Mhm.
out and you feel insignificant and you feel small
Yeah.
and you're filled with gratitude and you're grounded and you have a whole new appreciation for that perspective. That's
Mhm.
what life is. Life is not working a job, paying bills,
Getting a scratch golf.
and falling in love with the process
Yeah.
there, right? So it's,
Yeah.
but it's not those outcomes,
Yeah.
right? That's not what life is. Life is not taxes.
Yeah.
Life is not paying rent. Life is
Yeah.
not paying bills.
Right.
Life is the experience,
All of it. Yeah.
right?
Again, emotions.
I was about to get there. Emotions, right? How many emotions can you experience? All the ups and downs.
Mhm.
The more ups and downs you have in a day, the more fulfilled you'll feel in that day.
So true, dude.
Right? So if a runner's only going one direction, they're probably only like 1-2 track minded.
Mhm.
Whereas
Yeah.
when they come into CrossFit, constantly varied functional movements performed at high intensity, all of a sudden, if you're used to going like this, and I have you
Yeah.
start doing lateral stuff, right?
Mhm.
Or I have you start snatching or deadlifting, something that you
Never do. Yeah.
it's going to blow your mind, and you're going to enjoy it if you stay coachable,
Yeah.
right? If you can stay out of your own way, if you can trust the process, not be outcome focused, if you can really dig in and understand the concepts of what's going on here.
Yeah.
I literally have a chick who is at West,
Yeah.
and she's a runner. She's training for a marathon. I
Yeah.
didn't know she was training for a marathon, but she's training for a marathon, I think in January.
Yeah.
And she just hit me with like, that's the most I've ever deadlifted in my entire life. And I'm like,
Wow.
girl, you have more in the tank.
Yeah.
That was
She
week.
probably have a level of accomplishment she's felt.
100%.
Right.
100%.
So I want to touch upon this because I don't think running is a bad thing, because I was the person that never ran.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an emotion that happened for me in running, which was focus.
Mm-hmm.
And you know me, bro. I'm like, let's do next project. Let's open 15 more gyms. Like I can get super scattered.
Mm-hmm.
The moment I started going like one direction, I really
Mhm.
started to hone in
Mm-hmm.
on exactly what we needed to do.
Cuts away all the bullshit.
Cuts away all the bullshit. And I would have never got the focus. If focus is an emotion, I think it is an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
It created that for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying running is a bad thing, because we run in CrossFit too, but like, again, explore. If you never want to age, get as much movement vocabulary and keep as much movement vocabulary as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
That's my definition of age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the number. How many movements can you do? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be 1,000-pound deadlift.
Mm-mm.
How many different variations of movements can you do?
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that, you're very, very young. And a lot of times they look much younger in the face, in the body, in the skin, in the
100%.
soul,
100%, because
right?
it's all constantly being regulated. Can you hinge? Can you press? Can you squat?
Yes. So good. All right, dude. I think we're like 4 hours long. Let's go into the
I was
R.
about to say.
I think we might be 4 hours long,
This is why we have
guys.
to have a script. This,
I know,
'cause
this is what
these are
happens.
our conversations. That's what a lot of people don't understand.
still
Is our
good, though. If you
conversations
guys are
just be
here,
running.
If you guys love it, just give us a comment. Be like, I'm okay with it. I'm
Yeah,
still, I'm
100%.
sipping
more,
wine.
more unscripted.
Yeah, so let's go into the last R, which is ironically the first thing that I kind of do. It's at night for me. It's reflection,
Mm-hmm.
right? The start, like a good day starts at night for me.
Mm-hmm.
And reflection is really the way I do my journaling now, and it's evolved and it still changes.
Mhm.
Like sometimes I'll just get new prompts and then I'll answer the question. Is the first thing that I do is I write out all my accomplishments and all my gratitudes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm so thankful for this. Like this is something that I learned today. Like it could be something like that. And then the very end of it also is like if I was to conquer tomorrow and I only had one thing to conquer, what would that be?
Mm-hmm.
I would write that down just to let it marinate, and it just really puts my my state at peace. And then I get into this, and if you're at state of peace and you're not like anxious, I get knocked out really quickly,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like I used to do reflection in the morning, which is great too,
Mm-hmm.
but I found it to be more effective at night for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know when you do your reflection. When do you do yours now?
That's a great question. I do my reflection. It is so I have this habit tracker. It has like 18 things on it.
Mhm.
But I probably get it done mid-morning. So like
Oh, okay.
after my work, after my meditation, after my cold shower, after my workout.
Yeah.
Sometimes after I hit the golf course for an hour or two just to practice or whatever
Mhm.
I'm doing for that day, then I get it in. And
Nice.
just like you, I start with gratitude. Have you ever
Yeah.
been in a grumpy mood and just done a complete page of gratitude and watched your mood
It's
change?
hard. It's a challenge. If you guys are grumpy, try it. It's
For
really
real,
hard.
take a singular piece of paper, and if you're in a grumpy mood, like, man, I'm a storm cloud, right?
Yeah.
Write down everything you're grateful for. Doesn't have to be big. Doesn't have to be. There's no gratitude too small,
Yeah.
right? Grateful for breath.
Yeah.
Grateful for eyes that work. Grateful for 2 arms and 2 legs, 2 ears,
Yeah.
right? Find those things to be grateful for. I found that sometimes, like when I'm feeling off,
Mhm.
right? Let's say I've knocked out all my other things and I just kind of feel off.
Mhm.
I usually start my journal out with gratitude, but if I feel off, I'll do a whole page of gratitude. By the
Yeah.
end of the page of gratitude, I feel way better.
Dude, speaking of gratitude, my son will do like a 4-hour monologue of gratitudes. This cat finds the most, dude. And it goes to tell you why they're so happy all the time. They have the smallest gratitudes for things.
100%.
He said a gratitude that blew my mind, and I thought it was like the funniest thing. He's like, I'm just grateful that there's no nova explosions coming in, so the world will be okay for another billions of years, or something like that. I was like, this cat just,
Whoa.
and that's true, right? It
Yeah.
will explode at one
Yeah,
point.
100%.
Some nova star that he watched.
You
And
be
I was
watching
like,
the History Channel? What's going
no,
on
he
here?
watches space stuff. You know,
Okay,
we try to
fair,
control
fair.
what he's watching.
Fair.
But then he brought that up, and I was like, how come I didn't think of that?
Yeah, 100%. You're like, dang, that's a good point.
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
grateful
great
for that
point.
too.
Like, it could happen tomorrow, but it could
100%.
happen in a billion years or
100%.
100 billion years, right? So, dude, it's very setting. And again, like we're kind of saying the same thing over and over. It's hitting another
Shh, don't tell him that.
E word,
100%.
right? So, yeah, so reflection is so powerful. I wanted to make sure that we captured that component.
And sometimes in that reflection bit, I'll run through the thought model. If
Oh,
there's
true,
if there's
yeah.
something that's bugging me, something that is like, so one of the things I wrote about today is I have a particular athlete
Mhm.
that, how am I trying to say this? I have a particular athlete that's not hanging out in my class anymore for
Yeah.
whatever reason, right?
Mhm.
And I've come up with a narrative inside of my head as to why they're not coming to hang out. Right. Essentially focusing externally. But as I wrote in my journal this morning, I was like, okay, cool. What do I need to get off my chest, or what do I need to get out of my brain so that way I can be more optimal and efficient? And this is the first thing that came up. So it was that, and then the trouble I'm having with two other athletes. In both situations or in both circumstances, I'm too externally focused. I know I can't control them, but I'm focused on controlling them. Therefore, I'm not happy. So then it's one of the things is like, okay, cool. Since you know you can't control them, but that's what you're focused on. What can you control? Well, I can control how I interact with them or how I feel, right? Turn it more introspective. And as soon as I did that, the feeling that I had around what I've wrote in relation to these three particular athletes has changed.
And what did the outcome?
I don't know. I'll tell you after I see them tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
But
remind me for the next episode we do what happens, because there's some cool things. I've had that revelation before.
100%.
Right? Like we were doing like the 6 a.m. and then it was started. It was like 15 of us every time, and it started to dwindle down. And I was like, and I'm making it seem like it was about me. Right? And like 100%. Destroyed my life. 100%. And eventually I was like, these guys have other lives.
100%.
And one of the thoughts that I started was like, if I did my job correctly, they don't need reminders as much. And that really opened it up for me because, dude, I see you doing everything that we've talked in practice, and I'm like, I actually did it. Right? Something worked. And that's why we stopped doing it eventually. And I still kind of am like, man, I wish I could bring it all back. But it's so hard. It's so hard to like take 20 people that have 20 different lives. They all have kids. They all have families. They all have other jobs.
Obligations.
Right? One of them's trying to become a professional golfer. Another one's trying to become an amazing jiu-jitsu person. Someone's just trying to like get married, have a kid. Like it's so hard. So that process, I did that. And eventually I think it built our relationship back without even really like,
because you changed your point of reference to the thing. Therefore, the thing could change its reference to you. But it all starts with you.
Yeah.
I had the same experience. We talked about this before. I don't know if it was on the podcast. But James had gone out of town. This is probably a couple years ago. James had gone out of town. And I'm not a fan of his classes in the morning. Like just AM people, not my people, right? And so every time I walked in there previous, I was like, man, these aren't my people. Forget this noise. Like, forget these people. But I had to cover for James because James needed a break. So first day I went in, everything I expected. Not a fun time for anybody involved, for myself or for the athletes, right? But what I did is, I understood. I think we had recently talked about the coffee bean, right? And so I came to the understanding of, okay, cool. I can control the setting or the atmosphere, and whether or not they want to acclimate to what the atmosphere is, that's on them. But I can control the atmosphere because I can control a room. Gift, right? And so then what I did is I changed my point of reference in relation to those people, and I was able to meet them at a different spot. Therefore, they were able to change their point of reference to me and meet me in a different spot. And at the end of the class, or the classes, people are like, man, these are some of the best classes that I've had here. Thank you very much. And I was just like,
again, you change your own state. And that's, again,
100%.
You're tapping into a frequency that we were talking about.
100%.
So one more thing on the reflection, then we could sum this all up.
Okay.
Another cool thing about reflection, especially if you're having deep pain points, like if it's the hardest day of your life, you need to reflect on that. Because every time I write those down and I go like 6 months later and I read that same one, dude, talk about like Advil, talk about like medicine. There's something so peaceful. I was like, I'm experiencing the same thing and I was fine 6 months ago.
100%.
Like, why am I tripping?
You survived 100% of your bad days.
Yeah, dude, I thrived in them actually. Like I'll read the second one. It was like, I did this. I'm so aware how number one, it shows you who you are in those situations. And I'm proud of that person.
What's your character?
Yeah. So I was like, man, that guy was a beast. So anytime I get to those moments where I feel like I'm at rock bottom, he's going to make the right choice because he has all of these experiences collected and he approached it this way. And I think that is more value. I would get really sad if I lost some of those journals. Like those are the ones that I'm like, because dude, it really saved like my life. I feel like coming back to some of those moments.
It reminds you who you are.
Dude, it's so refreshing. And I think those are like, if you guys are in the suck right now, it's going to feel really, really bad. But I want you to really just write down the suck, write everything that you that's happening, and visit it 3 months from now, visit it 4 weeks from now, visit it 3 years from now. It's going to be your biggest gift that you give to yourself. And it possibly can be the biggest gift that Lucas will read if I pass away and he reads some of those things that Dad is going through, right? So I wanted to make sure that we got that out. But guys, if you can build this insane morning routine, and it's going to look different for everybody. We created the acronym ARMOR because my armor is going to look different than your armor. I might look like a samurai. You might look like a knight. Like you're like, it can be a light armor. It could be a heavy armor, but you decide what battle you're going into. Maybe you need a bigger armor, or if you're feeling pretty light, you're like, I'm just going to do a few affirmations here and there. I'm going to read the books that I really want, right? I'm going to do this for my oxygen or oxidative stress. You choose, but it requires you to at least attempt dabble in each one and really explore how that feels for you, right? So for a while, I thought I had to do the exact same thing as Nick. I had to do the exact same thing as Ed Millett. I had to do the exact same thing as David Goggins. But the truth is, it's not like that. There's a really cool Bible verse. Everyone knows David and Goliath's story, not a verse, the whole story, right? There was a segment there where King Solomon was like, hey, you should wear my armor to fight Goliath, which is 10 feet tall, super giant, right? And he was like, that should I wear his armor? But he's never worn that armor. The armor is too big for him. And he'd get pummeled.
Too bulky, it'll slow him down. He won't be as agile.
Yeah, it won't be as agile. But then he came in with his armor, very light, right? And he had the little slingshot. And that's what he won with. So it's like, if you're watching this, like, use your armor. You're going to find your armor in that process. But for you to find that armor, you got to beat the lion. You got to beat the bear that he fought. Like, you're going to find it. But it requires you to wear something to be able to figure out what weapon works for you. So, guys, if you love this episode, Nick and I did another emotional one about thoughts being a big portion of how you can change your life with your health and your stress. I think I said stress twice today, but stress is the thing here that we're trying to really help. So you'll ultimately weigh less. So if you guys like this particular episode, I never know where it's at.
You're the one
It's
that gets
in
to
one
put
of
it there,
these
bro.
things. I know, but I never know. But if I do this, then it'll good. So click on that link, guys. I'll see you guys on the next episode. I want to make sure that we can get this out. Peace.